Okay, this is a graph question, and you will commonly see graph questions on the SOL test. Let's first ask ourselves what this is about before we look down at the actual question. We see labor union membership 1900 to 1920. On this side, total membership in thousands. So 500,000 all the way up to 5,500 times 1,000. Wow, those are some big numbers. We see this trend line, the numbers going up as we go from 1900 to 1920. So what's happening here? We see that the number of Americans, well, assuming Americans, this doesn't say anything about America, but since this is a U.S. history class, we can pretty much so assume. We see that the number of members of labor unions is dramatically increasing between 1900 and 1905. Then it levels off some, but still going up, and dramatically increases from 1915 to 1920. Let's see, what events were around then? Well, World War I starts around here. It's also during the Progressive Era. Didn't talk too much about that though. World War I's really the main event here. So the question, all of the following contributed to the trend line shown in the graph except. Well, let's reword that question. We know that this is about labor union membership, which is increasing. So let's reword this question to all of the following contributed to the increase in labor union membership except. F, increasing industrialization. Would that increase the number of members of labor unions? Probably so. Now, G, poor worker management relations. Remember, labor unions were a response to employees being treated poorly by their employers. So yes, that would be a good reason for people to join labor unions. H, discontent with working conditions. That was another major reason that people joined labor unions. And J, a decline in the population. Well, is that true? Thinking back to the material from the class, we've never talked about a decline in the population of Americans. Native Americans, yes, but other Americans, our population has pretty steadily been increasing throughout all of U.S. history. So, a decline in population, well, I don't think that happened. And what would a decline in the population do in terms of membership? Well, if there's less people, wouldn't the number of members of labor unions actually fall? So that one's wrong on two counts. It didn't happen, the population increased during this time, and the effect would be exactly the opposite. So we know that J is completely incorrect, and since the question is asking all of the following contributed to the trend line shown in the graph except, we know that J is the correct answer because everything else is true and did result in increased membership in labor unions between 1900 and 1920. You'll see other questions similar to this on your SOL test.